So what's been going on? Obviously getting ready for tour. It's got to be an energizing time for the band.
Yeah, so we just did the US run and ended that, I don't know, the 18th or 19th or something of October. And now we got a couple weeks off here, and then do the Canadian run. Really exciting. The US tour was like so good. Can't wait to get back and then do it in Canada and see the reaction here too to the new music.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be electric, man, and I'm sure the US run was crazy. I actually saw you guys in concert back in 2012 in Halifax. It was on the run with Simple Plan and All Time
Oh,
Low.
really? Cool. That was
Yeah, so
fun.
that was a really cool show. And it's funny, man, I still remember that show and just the impact that you guys had in terms of the energy of the set and how good and cohesive you guys are live as a band. Talk to me about that cohesive feeling on stage. How long do you think it took you guys to really get to that point as a group?
It's funny. I don't know when we got that cohesive. I think just the early days of literally grinding it out in a van. Every single show was just the four of us, merch, load in, load out, playing, sound check, getting the local house guy. I think you just kind of get used to each other a lot as people. And then on stage, I think it just translates. I feel like there's like a sixth sense when you're out there, like where the other guys are. A lot of times you just like you're moving your instrument, your neck. You just feel that Josh is moving around on the stage. You're like, oh, and you just know he's there. Every once in a while, you're like, whoa, I didn't see him coming. But it is weird. It's weird how you kind of just get that feeling of where everybody is, and then the rhythm of each other and like listening. And but I think that's just experience. Honestly, I think that's just a matter of lots of shows together and lots of touring together and getting to know each other. It's like it's all different facets of that.
The music business is so different today because we're seeing artists who are being thrown out to that size of stage, arena size stages and festivals who maybe don't have that level of experience. Do you think that it's possible to sort of be as well versed in live performance and stage presence if you're brand new and you're thrown into that? Or do you think that, you guys could have done it either way?
We could not have done it that well right away. For us, I think it's funny. There's a lot of that because the nature of music right now is very like there's something sticky. Let's push it as much as we can, and then promote this person who might only have that one idea or a couple ideas, and they can't even play a whole set yet. And that's okay because like when you're a baby artist, you're not supposed to be able to do all that. But the way it goes right now, it's kind of I don't know. It's just different, I think. And maybe it was like that in the beginning. You had one album, back then instead of, 90 minutes worth. But I just think there's no substitute for the experience. I think there are people who are naturally better at it right away than others, who are charismatic and can carry the show without that experience. But I think the more you do it, the better they're even going to be at just commanding the audience or themselves or the space on the stage, all sorts of things. I think going all the way up though, it's weird. It's a very different experience playing like an arena or like when we did the Grey Cup halftime and you're like playing the stadium, like the stuff Taylor Swift is doing. I'm like, you can't even see the people at the back, like not
Yeah.
even their faces, but there's just a mash of people. And I remember thinking, this is weird. It's like it's quite disconnected feeling. Although the from her shows, I feel like it sounds like everybody's very connected together, which is pretty cool. I think the big key as an artist when you're playing the bigger venues is finding a way to make it feel like everybody's still connected and part of the show.
Yeah, for sure. Reaching the people all the way in the back. And I mean, that can't be an easy task, as you're saying.
Yeah, it's Josh does a good job. He circulates, like he gets off stage, and even in the U.S. club shows, he's like up in the balcony sometimes, and then in Canada does a lot of that too. And I think it definitely brings us into the audience. But then if you come to the show and you see the sort of way we've got it set up right now, it feels a lot like a play with the stage setup and the sort of props or whatever you want to call it. And I feel like it invites people in to the experience. So I think it's two ways. It's not just like watching a TV, and it's not like us looking at one. I think we get involved with the people, and they get an opportunity to really dive into the show with us.
Do you guys as a band have a really big say in those elements, like the stage design and sort of the experience that you want to curate visually as well as the music?
Yeah, we usually have some notes, sometimes a lot of them. Um, in this particular run, though, our tour manager did a really good job, like helping us get over the. We need to figure out production for the tour and what's that going to look like, and he came with some ideas. that are great. And he came with them early because we were so busy still tracking the end of the album and mixing it and then rehearsing and didn't have a lot of time. And he really took the lead. And for a tour manager, that is going way above and beyond the normal Call of Duty. But he's amazing. He's like the MVP of the touring album cycle so far.
How long have you guys been working with him?
He's been with us since I think it was Astoria when he joined us, but not in this capacity. He was like a stage manager. The last album cycle, the story was something else. I barely even knew him then because it was a bigger tour, so there were multiple buses, and he wasn't on our bus. Um, but he's been like he's a best friend. He's very 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 intelligent and incredibly hardworking. So you put those things together, and we're like, "Do you want to try to TM for us on this album cycle? We trust you, and he cares about us, so he's always looking out for our best interest." And I think that's a very valuable trait to have in somebody who's running such a big part of your, especially revenue generating part of the business.
Do you guys keep a lot of the employees or collaborators that you guys had, 5, 10 years ago, or is it like a revolving door, so to speak?
I think we're pretty good at keeping a lot of people. I think we sort of keep people for a few years at a time, but we keep them for an album cycle. But we're a little bit slower putting out new music than some other acts, so there's a gap usually where we're not on the road. So those people need to work, and then if they get tied up with somebody else where they're getting the work, they've got to take it. But we do always go back to the people we started with on the last cycle and see where they are because we seem to continuously be lucky enough to make this really great touring culture. And everybody's having a good time in the bus. But that being said, we might even have the best group yet. I don't know. That last tour was so good. I can't figure out what the secret sauce was. Whether it was the audience, whether it was us, the crew, the opening acts. I don't know, or maybe it was just all of it, all really hitting at the same time.
But it just seemed to work, and I mean, it sounds like they keep getting better and better as time goes on too.
Seems like it, yeah. It's hard to
I
tell
love
when you're
that.
in it and it's been then times past. You're like, because you don't always remember things clearly, especially feelings. Like a memory of a feeling fades, and you're like, how was it? I remember what I said, but what did that feel like? But right now I know what it feels like, and it's awesome.
It must be tough as well to sort of gauge where you're at when you're figuring out the moving pieces of the travel and the set and all those different elements. I mean, how do you guys sort of stay on top of that? Because, I go on a trip and I have to make stops at a couple airports and I'm, bamboozled. I can't imagine
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
a whole 2.5 month tour.
Man, it's crazy. That's the tour manager. He's sort of like the brains of the project, but we do some independent travel too within it. For example, sometimes we'll have like a family member fly out for a couple shows. So you might like we played Charlotte and then the tour went to Virginia Beach on a day off because it was a good place to spend a day off and it was affordable and all that stuff. But my wife and daughter were going to New York because she has family there because we had two shows there, day off before and after. So I just flew to New York. So in those cases, you're like booking your own hotels and travel and meeting up with them, and then you're kind of tour managing your own days off, which is
Right.
it can be pretty tiring in the middle of a tour where you're already pretty run down. But I don't know. Normally George Toms is the tour manager. Normally he takes care of the rest. We just ask him where are we going next. All you have to do is get to the bus, and you're probably in the right place.
That's it. The rest is taken care of.
Yeah, it's the
S-
best.
So you guys started in 2001, correct?
No, I'm not sure where that came from. I mean, Josh might have started a something then as a kid, teenager. I joined the band 2003.
Okay.
First album came out 2006. I always just use the first album as the like for sure. Everything has been the same since then.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, from 2006, how long do you think it took you guys to really start gaining traction to be at the level that you were at today?
Well, the first album we gained almost no notable traction. We could see the growth, which was really encouraging as you're going. You can see your audiences doubling, but when you're starting at 10 a show, doubling at first doesn't show up to everybody else on the radar. But when you're starting at over 100 a show, I remember thinking something's going on here. We're finally drawing an audience. And then Shake Trim came out, and then that really reacted. Got a little bit of radio play. Much Music had been embracing us, but like really embraced that video. And then we started playing through for 500 people a night in Canada, nothing in the States. And Masterpiece Theater, once Cross My Heart came out, and then All to Myself, that's when it was like, real like, this is my job. I had to quit my other job because we were going away so much. We weren't at this level, but that's when it became a professional thing. And then um, I would say by the end of that album cycle, we were doing like Orpheums. I feel like since that point, since Ever After, we've kind of been like, we got this. We're still getting better. The more shows you play, the better you get. The albums are harder, so harder to play and stuff. So we're still getting better because we have to.
There you go. I mean, to what would you guys attribute your longevity to? And because you see so many different bands out here who started after you guys and they're already, not even together anymore. I think it's very easy to fall into the pitfalls of this business one way or another, but you guys are still here making great music and touring consistently. I mean, what do you think that's from?
It's a good question. Sometimes I wonder where we would be in our careers had we been able to continually put out music at a higher frequency.
Hmm.
And would we be bigger? Would we whatever? But then I also wonder whether would we have burnt out and would we have gotten sick of each other or whatever? Because I think the fact that we're a little bit spaced out with our albums means we can tour them completely, get all the shows out that we want to play for each album cycle, and then recharge the creative juices and then make another great album. I think we have a good sense of humor. Usually, when we're like in the thick of mire, things are awful. We always find a way to laugh at it. When one guy is having a pretty bad time, if it's like real life bad time, he gets a lot of support and respect and space. If it's just a bad day and kind of funny, then the other guys find the humor in that. We've all been the butt of that joke. Hard work. I don't know. I think the fact that it's still growing keeps us motivated and hungry too. And maybe the fact that it hasn't gone like worldwide number one smashes everywhere keeps us like the chip on the shoulder a little bit too, you know?
Hmm. So it's always sort of picturing where you guys would want to be, even though you've been doing it for so long and doing so well.
For me anyway, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's interesting to hear about the sort of communal element of the band as well, behind the scenes. Have you found it a challenge to keep you guys' friendship intact throughout this whole thing, or is it a situation where the more you guys go through, the more you guys conquer together, that friendship just keeps getting stronger and stronger?
I think more the latter. I think we're really, really tight because we've gone through so much together. Matt is one of my best friends on the planet. Ian has been a best friend for a long time. Josh really became a friend when I spent more time with the band. But there's still all that to me, nothing has changed. Um, yeah, there are a lot of moments where we really go through stuff that people don't see that are challenging and really, really test us. There's also those great victories that people might not realize we have that really acknowledge the hard work or recognize it or vindicate or whatever you want to call it. That are galvanizing as well. So I think we're a pretty well united team. Like I'm saying that with hesitance, but I mean, like I think it's pretty. I don't think I can swear on this, but can I?
You can.
Pretty fucking good.
There we
Good with
go.
each other.
Now we're talking. I mean, going back to when you guys first popped off and you had to leave your job, I'm curious about that element because it seems like something that, yes, every artist is going to have to do when they reach a certain point. But I've also heard that's the hardest part about making the transition. Do you agree with that statement? That is the hardest part?
It wasn't for me. It was the best
Okay.
part.
Oh,
I think the hardest part is when you're trying to make it your job and you're starting to put a lot of hours with there's no money coming in. You're playing like we were touring Canada over and over and over on the Fix Me album cycle. Then I'd come home and do as many serving shifts as I could so I could pay my bills while I was going out for another 4 weeks, back and forth, and that got tough. That was tight and challenging. And I remember finished the album cycle going, well, I got a couple bucks in the bank, but like not enough to do anything, like enough to pay rent for a couple months. And I guess I'll get a job at Starbucks or restaurant again or whatever. But it was on the next album cycle where we were actually making enough of a living where when like it was literally my work was like you can't keep booking off so much time like you got to go like you're never here anymore and and I knew it was okay. Like when I left, I was like, okay, I can still pay for my rent and eat food and provide, right? We hadn't like won a lottery or anything like that, but it was also exciting because it was still going the right direction, you know?
Yeah. So that was really the point where you had to figure out what you wanted to do. But then once you let yourself go for it, it became easier.
It was pretty easy at that. Well, yeah, at that point, once I got over that hump, I do remember there was like a couple of days at work when we were on the Fix Me album cycle and maybe decided to break it. It had been out, but not Shake Tramp yet, and having panic attacks, like just starting to burst in sweat while I'm sitting at my section, being like, oh my god, what if this doesn't work out? What if it doesn't work out? And then it was like, just work harder. And I remember at that point, MySpace was the number one social media thing, and we were sending a lot of strangers who looked like they might like our music based on their interests emails, handwritten or hand typed emails with some links to videos and stuff like that. I
Wow.
swear I'm not lying. Ian and I, over the course of a year, sent at least 250,000 emails. And I swear that's a huge reason we got over that hump.
That is insane, man.
It was
I mean,
insane, but it's the only thing I could do because I remember coming home from work those days being like, look, if this doesn't work out, I'll always wonder. But if I do everything I can in my power to try to get there and it doesn't work out, at least I'll know I did that. I had to be able to live with myself if it didn't work. You know what I mean?
for sure. Exhaust every possible option, to make it work. And then if it doesn't work, well, you have your answer, right?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Talking shop when it comes to bass for a couple of seconds.
Sure.
When you look at the bass players who have influenced you, I'm not going to ask you your biggest influence, but I will ask you, who do you think are some of the most underrated bass players that you wish out there would maybe get more shine?
I don't know, man. Bass is a weird instrument. Like everybody knows who Flea and Les Claypool and all these great, busy, showy bass players are. Flea does it well, but usually that's not what the song calls for. You know, is crazy everything bass parts. It's like really just locking in, finding the pulse, and I mean, I'm not a sick bass player because there's just no reason to like be flashy and unslap and stuff. I'd love to be able to do it, but I don't know where I would do it anyway. So I don't practice it. I really like in going way back in The Cure. That bass player plays a lot of really cool melodic bass lines that kind of do more than the bass player's job. So that was an influence for me way back. And then it allows that guitar player to play a lot of lead stuff without a lot of chords going on. And then you really hear the rhythm section in that. I really like them. Like Fascination Street is an awesome bass and drum song. Who else did I just think of? Somebody just came in and out of my head there, but Jane's Addiction, that bass player had a lot of
Mm.
really cool melodic like bass parts that could really carry the song. And I think those ones are neat where it's more melodic instead of just how many notes can I put in this, 2 bar space.
Yeah. I mean, how do you stay on top of that mentally when there's an interest in a certain type of playing, but it doesn't suit the song? Because I mean, there's a lot of groups where the guy just overplays anyway, and I think everybody suffers at that point.
Everybody does suffer at that point. I think that's the interesting thing about this band. It's always been, if you look at the stuff, there's almost no guitar solos in any of the songs. A couple of lead parts here and there, but like moments that accent a moment in the song, but not like, here, we're gonna clear these 16 bars or 12 bars or 8 or whatever it is for and go, Matt, shred. Like it just, I don't know, often doesn't really make a song better unless it's like a couple of those legendary solos like in what's there's the one that Eddie Van Halen played in one of the Michael Jackson songs, that Beat It, I think it is. Like
Yeah, yeah,
that solo is worth it. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
where like,
Detroit Rock City, stuff like that, right?
yeah. So if it's one of those moments, um sure, you can do it. But most of the time, the song isn't asking for it. And honestly, we don't really have that in our toolkit. We could probably do it if we had to, or hire somebody to do it. Or like we had a crazy guitar tech who's the nicest guy and super talented. And live, he would shred like crazy in these, like in the climaxes of the song, because he
Right.
played on stage with us for the Phantoms album cycle. And that was really fun. But like in a recording, it's usually not necessary. So you're like, want the impact of the music, the melody, and the words to really be front and foremost all the time.
Finally, to wrap up, the latest single, Down to You. Obviously, I think getting a really good reception. And what I love about this, man, is again, it goes with you guys' theme of consistency. There's always that consistency. This has that classic Marianas Trench sound, but it also has totally different and modern production techniques. Talk to me about how long it took to really put this song together.
I don't think that one took too long. Originally, Josh was just doing that for a TikTok thing to be like, this is how I would use strings if I was doing a pop song right now. And then it was like, wait a second, this is a song. And then like started digging into it and finishing it off.
So it
Um,
started as like a TikTok challenge.
to himself, I think, just to demonstrate, like something to put up there. Which is funny because the song is pretty, secular. There's a lot of repetition, although it feels really, it works. I like it a lot. It's really fun to play live. It's really like punchy, and I have my hand there.
Oh, geez.
Supplements. I reached into my supplement jar. Anyway,
No worries.
and I love that it's like really like punchy and tight and concise. And that one actually took a lot of practice for especially Matt, Ian, and I to like really lock up and make it tight with each other.
Letting everybody know that Marianas Trench is starting the Canadian leg of the Force of Nature tour on November 16th. Make sure to go hit that ticket link down below, get your tickets, and of course, check out the latest single on all streaming platforms. And thank you so much, Mike, for taking some time, man. I really appreciate you checking in with me.
My pleasure. Thank you for your time. That was a fun interview.